Is that? Do I smell a new Inanimate Insanity Invitational episode? Well, golly gee, let's talk about it. We've got ourselves another really good episode. I honestly think it's the best one yet. This one was written by Brian Koch, and I was really excited to see how an episode by him would turn out because I really like his work. And he's written lots of cool stuff like fans' fantastic features and some awesome video essays. He's never let me down when it comes to writing, and after watching this episode, I can safely say that he still hasn't. Let's start off with talking about the challenge. I really like the concept for this episode's challenge. Everyone has to take a humiliating photo from a member from another team, and the team that looks the worst is the loser. And the challenge goes on for 24 hours, so everyone's gotta make sure not to sleep to make sure they don't get a pic of them. I just love how fun and creative this challenge is. It's pretty simple, but a lot can be done with it. And what's funny is that Miphone thought of this challenge because a couple photographers just took a picture of him and tarnished his reputation with it. So he came up with this challenge so everyone could feel his pain. Now, making a good challenge concept is one thing, but executing it is a whole other thing. And I can happily say that this challenge was executed amazingly. There are so many delightful character interactions and hilarious situations that it just feels like watching a playground. There is not a single dull moment. It's all just silly dynamics and funny events. I'll go over some of the moments I especially like because there are a lot. Candle's dramatic narration of the start of the challenge made the beginning much more interesting than it had any right being. I loved how Nickel was envious of Clover and her insane luck, so he tried to catch her in a humiliating situation and completely failed every time. Like the one time something bad actually happens to her, a butterfly appears right in front of the lens. Like, that is amazing. Having the floor listen in on Tea Kettle as she reveals the Sinker's plan in the confessional was honestly just genius. And what's funnier is that he doesn't even mention that she realized he was listening in on her much later in the episode, which was a vital detail. Also, I swear, the floor is becoming a more and more intimidating contestant as the episodes go on. The way he uses his ability to teleport to any part of the ground at any moment scares me. Speaking of that one specific contestant, I liked how Silver Spoon got more screen time in this episode. I feel like for the past 2 episodes, all he's done is give sassy, suave comments. But here, it's cool to see how this picture-taking challenge is difficult for his sensitive self-image. I also loved how he subverted Cabby's expectations with the way he behaves under pressure despite how she keeps tabs on the ways the contestants behave. Speaking of Cabby, wow, these transitions are really working out for me. I was a little disappointed with how not villainous Cabby was in this episode. It felt like in the last episode, Cabby was turning into a bit of a villain, or I at least thought she was gonna hold some sort of rivalry with Test Tube. But no, she's a lot more level-headed and reasonable in this episode, which I guess makes sense since Fan isn't here to judge her actions, but it doesn't make a lot of sense how she seems to be holding no grudge with Test Tube, even though Cabby is the reason her best friend isn't even in the game anymore. Test Tube does seem slightly uncomfortable when she's around Cabby, but that's about it. Cabby even saved Test Tube from looking silly in a picture, so it feels like last episode kinda just didn't happen. Which isn't a huge deal, it's just pretty jarring. Another little problem I had was the moment between Bo and Miphone. I liked what it was going for, the idea of not being ashamed of your silly side is a cute message. But what I found weird was just how quick it was. It felt like this moment didn't really have time to sink in. It kinda just went, Miphone is ashamed of looking silly in an article and thinks that his job as a host is so silly. Bo says that the silly moments are awesome and should be remembered, and Miphone is immediately convinced by that. Like, that's it. Bo asks Miphone if he wants to take a silly photo with her, and Miphone is all for it. And what's even weirder is that when Bo is about to take the picture, Miphone just leaves. What was the point of the scene if he doesn't embrace being silly? He does refrain from judging Goo in the picture with him and the pine cones, but that's it. It didn't really feel like Miphone developed in any way, it just felt like he changed his mind. Which might have been the joke that Brian was going for, but it doesn't really land for me, it just makes for an awkward transition in my opinion. Alright, moving on to the elimination scene. This one was quite interesting. It was revealed that Box voted for Balloon and was the one that voted for Nickel last episode. We pretty much knew that Box voted for Nickel last episode, but it's interesting to see that Box has only been voting for Nickel and Balloon, his alleged friends. It's also really funny to think that he's been doing this because of how fed up he is with the fact that Nickel and Balloon have been talking for him when he never really agreed with it since he can't talk. But what's interesting is that when the elimination came to a tie between Life Ring and Nickel, Box voted for Life Ring. At first I thought Box just wanted Nickel and Balloon gone, but he decided to keep Nickel around. So I'm really questioning Box's motives here. I'm thinking that since Nickel has now been banned from the picnics tables— oh crap, I forgot to talk about the picnics tables. The picnics tables are infinite food generators where you can pick whatever food you like. Nickel is banned from using them because he used one to make banana peels and tried to make Clover trip. And I guess Box saw that as a reasonable enough punishment to not vote him off the island. I'm not sure if that's a reasonable mindset, but it's the best reason I can think of. I mean, Box is a Box, who am I to judge his ways? And so in the end, Life Ring is eliminated, which really sucks, honestly. I love Life Ring and Nickel, to be honest, but Life Ring has been making all the strategies for the challenges, and now that he's gone, I'm worried that the Sinkers won't have many ideas in the future. I get that having no ideas is probably better than having ideas that don't work, but having ideas that don't work is more entertaining. At least Life Ring left the game doing what he does best, giving lessons regardless if it ends well. And that's about all I had to say about the episode. It was overall really good. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but if the episodes uphold this amount of quality throughout the series, this is gonna be a really good show. I've been having a good time watching it. And all with an unbroken immersion. Thanks,
Hey,
Brian!
everyone, Brian here to break your immersion.